Another problem that people come up against is that they want to get everything across that they possibly can. And a lot of times they overload the navigation and menus with different options, which can, of course, lead to decision fatigue, having to guess between 20 different links of where they want to go next. Keep the content short, keep it concise, and keep the menu simplified so that they don't have to decide where to go.
I know you have built so many websites in your career, and this is something that you guided a lot of clients through. So I'm really hoping we can use your expertise to find some common pitfalls and things like that as people are creating a website. But when you're starting a website, what are some of the first things you look at when you're starting to plan or maybe rework a website strategy?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I love to advise people on how to approach a website because it does seem incredibly overwhelming in the beginning. And it should be. It's customer facing. It's a lot of times the first impression that you're giving to prospects and potential customers. So a lot of planning should go into it before you even start typing anything. The first thing you want to think about is really what is the goal. Companies need a website nowadays, right? So you kind of have to have one to get your messaging across. So the first thing you really want to think about is beyond just conveying your message. What is the goal? Like, what are you looking to get out of this? Are you just informing your customers? Do you want them to book a demo? Do you want them to get in touch with you, like chat with you, looking to generate leads and just want them to fill out a form so you can get their emails for later marketing? It's really about, you want to center your thought process around the ultimate goal. And on top of that, think about who your audience is. In all marketing, basically, you want to make sure that you have your ideal customer profile set out, your personas, however you want to look at it. Just make sure you go into it knowing who your customers are, what they're looking for. So that way you can kind of tailor what the entire website is focused on around what they need, what they're looking for. A lot of people focus on performance stuff and technical back-end things. That's important for sure. But yeah, before doing any of that, you just need to get down what you really want your website to accomplish. After you get past that point, you can start thinking about your content. You have messaging, you have a website already, as there's some things that are out of date, or there are things that are missing that have popped up recently with your sales team. Or the value props, have they changed? Companies evolve over the years. And another thing that moves quickly is technology. So it's always important to do kind of like an audit over what kind of tech you're using on the back end. What does your tech stack look like? How's your CRM working? How are your emails being pushed out? Does any of this tie into your website? Because if so, that's got to be taken in consideration when you're planning something new. So there's a lot that goes into it in the very beginning before, like I said, before you even type your first word. All that stuff has to be considered.
I really like how you go back to the basics of making sure you understand what the goal of your website is. It's really sad, but there are a ton of websites out there that don't have a clear call to action. You go on there and you're like, oh, it looks nice. There's some good stuff on here, but you're like, I don't know what the next step is. When it should be really simple, like it's contact us or book a demo. And really, you should have those buttons super easily accessible for people to take. And so many websites get that wrong when it's such a simple fix.
Yeah, no, I mean, people go into it. I run across clients that do this all the time, which is understandable. Like, you want it to look pretty. You want it to be visually engaging. You want to make sure it gets across what you want to say. A good test to do really is, if you look at some good websites, there's like a 5-second test that you can think about. When somebody looks at your website, because in reality, that's pretty much the only amount of time they have to capture somebody's attention in this fast-paced world we live in. If someone can't tell what you do and why it matters to them in the first 5 seconds, they're going to move on. It's just that simple. So all of that stuff, you're right. You need to have all the clear call to actions and all of that stuff right up front, not just who you are and what your company name is. You really have to grab their attention quickly and let them know how your company is going to help them. Otherwise, why are they going to care?
That's a super easy test to do, too. You can ask your friends or anyone who doesn't know what you do, just ask them to look at it quickly and summarize what they think you do and why it could help them. If they can't answer that, then you got to go back to the drawing board. I see a lot of the time, like, that first line is just filled with buzzwords. That's a common mistake I
Yeah.
see a lot, is people are just like, we like optimize your XYZ. And I was like, I don't really know what that means. Like, can we get a little bit more specific about the problem that you're solving?
Yes, yeah. I mean, companies are so anxious and eager to get across what they want you to hear and want to present themselves as the expert in the field, So they throw out the jargon, they throw out the lingo, and, they want to make sure everybody knows that they know what they're talking about. But in reality, you're that's not what your customers want to see, and you're missing opportunity if they come to the site and they have no idea what you're saying in the first 5 words. So you just have to be very careful. Basic is better when it comes to that kind of thing, because it's just, you want to get your point across very, very quickly. And you mentioned family and friends. That's a great test to do. People, because you're going to get people on your site that don't know marketing. They don't know what they're looking at. So
Yeah.
having someone that's not in the same industry as you are, look at the site. And if they can tell you what you do and how you're going to help your customers, then that's a really good sign.
Yeah. You jumped into something that I think we see a lot, is that companies usually are really excited to talk about themselves. And that makes a lot of sense why people want to do that. But how can you balance maybe that enthusiasm to talk about who they are to actually what's super helpful for the audience?
Yeah. So when it comes down to the basics, a website is just another form of marketing. And I think that's something that's widely overlooked. People don't realize that. They're just looking at it as a place to put all their information, their history, all their products, blah, blah, blah. But it really is, you're trying to capture your audience's attention. And it's a huge lead generation platform and opportunity for them. So you need to kind of flip the script, change it from what we do or who we are to what the customer is going to get from you. How is the customer going to benefit from your company? And how are you going to help them fix their pain points and solve their issues? It's more about that whole using you more often than you're using. So like a good example of that would be like, instead of saying something about we have 24/7 support, change that around and say, you'll get expert help anytime you need it. Like just something that simple, it just helps you connect more with your audience and who you're trying to reach. It's more like a personal level of communication instead of that like sell that everyone's so used to and everyone hates. You just can't do that anymore. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I like to call that selfish content, when you're just focusing about who you are as the company. And that's like level 1, you like beginner level content. But if you really want to take it to the next level, you make those little tweaks to frame it for your audience.
Yeah, no, I love that selfish content. I'm going to steal that probably moving forward. I really like that phrase. But it's true. I mean, gone are the days, obviously, of like the used car salesman mentality of like forcing your product down people's throats. That's just not going to fly anymore. You really have to start empathizing with your customers before you start writing your content and feeding them anything. Find out what they really want to hear and how you can help them versus how you can sell them.
Yeah. I found that connecting with the sales teams can be really helpful to get this messaging too. There's just something about good salespeople really understand what resonates with the customer a lot of the time because their paycheck like is on the line.
Yeah.
So if you can talk to your salespeople and check out some of their calls, it'll really help with the messaging.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's a great thing to do. People tend to skip over that part and rely on their marketing department to handle all of the website building and stuff. You have an amazing set of resources within your company, depending on what your product is. And if you do have a sales team, absolutely talk to them. They're the ones that are actually talking to the customer. They're the ones that are asking them what their pain points are and what they're hoping to accomplish with your products. It's a huge missed opportunity to overlook them and not talk to them about how they think the website could help them do their jobs.
100%. So what have you noticed that really high-performing websites do differently when it comes to messaging and the structure of it?
Good question. You mentioned earlier about the CTAs being right up front. That hero section at the top of the page above the fold, which is ironically an old newspaper term.
Oh,
And adapted now. You want to make sure that all the important information is right there before they even scroll, because in reality, you're trying to get them to scroll. That's the next step you want them to take.
yeah.
So you encourage them to do that. Meaning, if you capture their attention with that initial headline, you need to tell them who you are, who it's for, what you do, and what problem you're solving for them, and what they need to do next. It sounds very basic and simplistic, but you need to guide the viewers through the actions you want them to take. CTAs are a great way to do that. It might not be in the literal sense they're saying, where do I go next? As it works psychologically, they need to know what they're supposed to be doing. Are they supposed to scroll? Are they supposed to press a button? Are they supposed to swipe? It's all questions that you have to answer when people come to your site. You want to make sure that you have the CTAs, your forms, anything very upfront and clearly marked that, hey, this is where you want to go. This is what you want to do. Be very strategic about it. If you have a product that you're pushing, put the CTA right next to it. Make sure that you're hitting those key areas with call to actions to make sure that people understand what to do with the information that you're giving them. Stay consistent in your narrative. Always.
Yeah.
If a website doesn't flow, people aren't going to react well to it, and they're probably not going to come back. That's that's part of the problem with websites. It's very easy for people to click off of them and find something different. So you really need to make them understand why you are their solution to whatever it is that they're looking for. Another important thing to have on a website that people don't think about is social proof. People are more likely to trust you if others trust you, especially if it's other companies in the same industry that they may have heard of. Always have logos of any partners that you work with. Testimonials from customers are always a great thing to find. Case studies. You might not have a case study living on your homepage, but certainly put links to case studies on there and showcase that you have customers that are trusting you already. And that is a good thing. Another problem that people come up against is that they want to get everything across that they possibly can. And a lot of times they overload the navigation and menus with different options, which can, of course, lead to decision fatigue. You don't want that. You don't want them having to guess between 20 different links of where they want to go next. Keep the content short, keep it concise, and keep the menu simplified so that they don't have to decide where to go, that it's obvious where they should be going next.
I think that aligns with the CTAs as well, that if in the beginning you just can decide, like, this is our main objective. I also noticed the reverse problem. Some people don't have anything and other people have too many options. There's book a demo, contact us, download this white paper, follow us. There's too many options when really we should try and get them to one main goal. And there might be a couple like sub things in there, but we don't want to, overwhelm them and cause that decision fatigue.
Exactly. And that's important. We're talking about CTAs and making sure they're all over your site so people know where to go. But the critical part is being strategic about it. So and that's where it comes back to the planning, where you want to make sure you have an ultimate goal. Because like you said, you want people to read your case studies. You want people to read the product page. You want people to fill out this form. Don't put it all on one page. Don't hope it's different options, because nobody's going to do and nobody's going to follow. They're going to give up and, again, click off if they can't figure out what they're supposed to be doing or if they can't decide what they want to do. It's really like a path. You want to think about the journey that you want them to go through and focus on that and strategize your CTA around that journey that you want the users to take.
In your experience, what's something that might seem like something that's really small on a website but actually makes a big difference?
Yeah, oh gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the technical stuff, make sure you talk to the developers when you're going through the website, because there's so many ways they can set things up in the back end that they should be clear about, and how things work together and all the elements build on each other. But as far as the front end goes, which is what most people are concentrated on, it's basically, again, with the CTAs, we keep coming back to that, but obviously that's like the most important element of the website. Try to be specific about it. Use verbs, use action items that reflect the customer's pain points and the solutions that they're looking for. Saying learn more, which is like the standard, is not very descriptive, and it's kind of vague and not really telling the user what they're going to be getting if they click on it. So, you want to use things like, see how we can help you do blah, blah, blah. I mean, the CTAs have to be somewhat short, especially if you're using buttons, but you can still get across what you're trying to convey. Speed and quickness are so important. All leads to performance. And although performance can be a very technical aspect of a website, the analytics and the performance of the site itself really affects how a user is viewing your site. So if it's taking a long time, if you decide you want to put a video on your homepage, that's great. People love videos. Video is huge right now, obviously. We want that. We want more people to use videos. But if it's the super long video that's going to bog down the speed, and somebody clicks on your site and it's taking more than a second to load, they're not going to wait. They're not going to stick around. They have too many other options that they can get to immediately. So think like little things like that. And again, developers probably have some suggestions where you can help with this because they know what's possible. But the simplest thing, like a sticky navigation, basically, like when people are scrolling through, so they don't have to scroll all the way back up to see, to go to the next place where they want to go. Like it's right there when you have a nav that stays with you the whole time that you're scrolling. Another good thing would be your image choices. Because marketing, which I love, this is one of the reasons I love marketing, is that it's a lot of psychological basis. People want to see emotion. They love to see people. That's like since the beginning of advertising itself. There's been so many studies done that people react better to ads that have people in them, that are showing emotion, that are smiling, that are sad, like whatever emotion that you want to get across to your customers, use that. Then, there's tons of stock photo sites that you can use if you don't have a photographer, but always, try to show people when possible, because that's what other people connect to when they're looking at it. But definitely action language is also a great thing. Seems pretty simple, but using action verbs, again, tells the customer what they're supposed to be doing and what they want to do. Sometimes you have to tell them what they want to do.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone if they're revisiting their site and maybe considering redoing it or just revamping it? What things should they be looking out for?
I'm going to take you back to what we talked about with the sales team. Just because that's so important. They can ask the customers. They can directly ask the customers, how did you find us? What made you choose us? What kind of objections are they facing from their customers every day when they talk to them? What are the pain points? Is the website addressing the issues that you're trying to solve? All that narrative can come straight from your sales team or whoever is customer facing to find out directly from the source. Another great tool to use is heat maps. When you have a website, Microsoft Clarity, that's a great one. Free, completely free. It can give you information. It records visitors section for those that don't know the technical aspects. So basically, if a user comes to your website and you have Microsoft Clarity, it will tell you, or any other tool, it will tell you where these people are clicking, where they are focusing on, how long they stay on a specific section on the page, what they're, really reacting to. And it's a great way to see what's working and what's not working. Analytics is the same thing. It's that's a little tougher, and you can go down a rabbit hole really easily with analytics, and you don't want to put too much emphasis on that, but it's important. It's important to see how long people are spending on your website, because if they're not spending a lot of time, then they're not getting the information that you want them to get. Same thing with like blog posts. See what's performing there, which blogs are being looked at the most. That not only tells you what how your site's performing, but on the front end, on the other side of it, it's showing what they're interested in, what kind of content your customers are looking for, what the pain points are, what the, whatever solution you're presenting in that blog post is important for whatever reason. You can also do some testing, especially with landing pages. Very simple to just create 2 with a different headline and see what's working, what's not. So ultimately, I think the most important thing is to really connect with your audience, figure out what they're looking for, talk to your customers that you have, talk to your salespeople, and always remember that you're looking at it, look at your site from the perspective of your customers, not about what you want to say. It's about what they want to hear.
Yeah, 100%. One other tool I know that's really helpful this is more to review the technical side of things, and maybe other ones too, but is SEO Optimer. They have a 14-day free trial, and that's a really good way just to get a high-level view of, is your website indexed with Google? Do you have title tags? Do you have things like that, just to get an overview of how the technical side is doing? Do you know any other tools that are helpful maybe to review messaging or more like the technical aspects?
There's paid tools out there. Google has the page speed report, which I use constantly. That's also a free tool where you can plug in a URL and it'll tell you how it's performing on the technical side of things. It'll show you how fast your site is. It'll give you warnings if it's taking too long to load. It'll even tell you what the problems are on it. If you have a video on the homepage that's taking forever to load, it'll tell you that. So that's a great tool to use. What else do I use? There's a tool called Screaming Frog. That's a paid tool, but that will tell you so much information that you can download. It'll show you where broken links are. It'll show you how many, the header tags are missing, and it'll show you what images don't have metadata connected. All of this stuff does feed into the overall performance of your site. SEO is a very big beast.
Yeah.
Google is very protective over what their algorithms are for people to find you in search. But there are ways and lots of tools that can help you figure out what exactly you need to fix and what you could work on and what you can improve. Ultimately, SEO is incredibly important, but the content that you put on your website shouldn't be planned around your SEO. Ultimately, it needs to reach your customers more than it needs to reach Google. Speak to the customer, not to the algorithm.
Yep. That is, I feel like, been my hot topic over the last month is let's stop creating stuff for algorithms and just create it for your customer. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Exactly. It'll all come, it's a hard race to win at SEO. It really is. It's because you don't know what the targets are. So you're not going to be able to hit them on the first try. But you know what your customer wants, so you'll be able to satisfy that.
Yeah. Well, we covered, I think, a lot of really good website topics. Is there anything else you want to add? Any other tips that you think might be helpful?
Tips now, but I will re-emphasize the important things of talking to your developer and talking to your sales team. It's so, so important, and having a plan in place run this thing much more smoothly. Don't dive in until you have all the basics covered, and take steps, get the content done before you jump into design. Yes, the design is the fun part, but you need the content, because if you go try to jump ahead, you're going to be designing something and then have to go back if you decide you want to add more content to it. It's, it's all a flow that you should follow. That's going to save you a lot of time and heartache in the long run, for sure.
No, 100%. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this call and sharing your expertise. Yeah, I think this was really helpful for me too, just to learn a little bit more about websites. And we'll chat again soon.
Sure. Thanks so much. I hope it was helpful.
Thanks for checking out Tech Qualified. This show is brought to you by New North, a marketing agency that helps turn your small, scrappy marketing team into a growth engine. To find out more about New North or check out more episodes of this show, go to newnorth.com/techqualified.